Welcome, everybody, to Samudra Shakti Online. I'm so glad you're here with us this evening. Samudra Shakti Online is brought to you by Maduri Martin, who's with us tonight. She's out west in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and myself, Lisa Long, who's here in Florida. Both of us are in the United States. We have an agenda tonight. It includes a little bit of background on our program, our presentation from Tiffany Wood, as well as we might ask you to do a survey. We'll give you that link later, and we may have time for some discussion. So Samudra Shakti Online originated out of a live event out west in the Colorado Rocky Mountains before the pandemic. And it was such a huge success that we wanted to keep that energy and connection and vibrancy and Shakti alive. So we created a monthly online gathering, and then the pandemic arrived, and we just have continued through this time period, meeting once a month live online. The topic and presenter changes each month. And we're so stoked to let you know that we are going back to Colorado in September 2023. Yay! So next fall in September, we will be back at the Estes Park YMCA in the Rocky Mountains of the United States. And the event is open to all. So we invite you to join us. We'll have more details in the coming months, but if you would like to be on our watch list, just hold your phone up to the screen and scan the QR code. It'll bring up a page in your browser window and say, like, should you open it? And then you just fill in your information and you'll be on an email list. We'll only use it to send you information about Samudra Shakti, the live event, September 2023 in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. So tonight we have Tiffany Wood with us, and I'm so excited. She is a certified Anusara yoga teacher, and she's been practicing and teaching for 26 years. It's her greatest passion. She has so much experience over these past 2 decades as a nationally certified body worker and life coach. She inspires her students to align with their own intrinsic goodness, and radical self-acceptance and self-empowerment are the fruits her students harvest by learning to live in harmony within their bodies and the world around them. Her trainings go well beyond the physical aspects of teaching yoga, producing graduates that are ready to teach from their hearts with confidence and depth. I am so happy to welcome Tiffany. I'm going to stop the screen share and hand this off to you, Tiffany. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, welcome. It's such a pleasure to be invited to share this time with you. When I was asked to do so in such a way that I really, there was no other answer other than yes. And the yes came out of me, and the yes has flowed through me. And I want to share with you a story that's mine to hold of how I came into deeper connection with the philosophy that has informed my life, the practices that have informed my evolution, and how I see this particular community as one of the placeholders in the reason I show up to do what I do. So it was about, I can't really remember, my life was in such chaos. It was either 2015 or 2016. And life was really small. I had torn my house apart and was dealing with a major mold infestation and all of the neurological damage and physical symptoms that were going with that. It was about to cause a divorce in my life, and I was really at my wit's end. And I remember going to our very first Samavesha as a teacher, and I was sort of a shell of myself, but really excited to be there. And another one of our favorite philosophers and I don't know, just beautiful informants of the tradition of yoga, Manoj Chalam, was there. And I came to Manoj and I said, Manoj, I need the Goddess Kali. I need to take her and connect with her because my life is in such disarray that I feel like I want to honor this big dissolution that my life is in. And he looked at me and he's like, no, You can't have Kali. You have to have Saraswati. And I was like, I don't want Saraswati, I want Kali. And we had this debate over this, and I left with Saraswati because I trusted him as a dear teacher. And I went and put her in bed with me. She slept on the pillow next to me. And I woke up at some point in the middle of the night, and she spoke to me, Saraswati, however you want to envision that happening, go ahead. And she said, go get Kali. And I was like, holy cow, okay. So I went to Manoj and I said, Manoj, I'm going to get Kali. And he's like, that's too much Shakti for you. No. And I said, no, really, I am. And that was my first step into really realizing that no one person holds all the power, that the power lies within us. And when we check in with the one and really listen to that guidance, we will be nurtured. So my foray into the goddess tradition, which I will call the Shakta Tantra from here forward, began in that moment where I really started to study and practice and cultivate a relationship with how the goddesses themselves are in relationship. Fast forward 2 years, and I went to, or maybe it was the next year, see, time. I had done a lot of work. A lot of work. I had chopped the wood and carried the water and showed up. And when I came to Samavesha that year, the second I walked in the door, Manoj looked at me and he said, ooh, you are Lakshmi. And I was like, hell yeah, I am. I am Lakshmi. I am on fire. I am golden. I am flowing with like the most beautiful essence of who I am. And it's because I put everything into a relationship and showed up. So I wanted to use this presentation and really connect with this community of people because there's something special about this Kula, the Kula of the heart, and really honor and recognize that the world has like our grandparents and their grandparents could say, has gone into a complete state of disarray in certain aspects. We've come out of a massive pandemic. We're still experiencing the effects of it. There's a war, there's many wars happening. One that's right up in the face of a lot of the people we know and love. There's fires, global warming, there's radical shift in women's rights. There's all sorts of things, gun violence here in the United States. We could look out in the world and go, oh my God, the law of cause and effect and karmic consequences has gone so far out of check, it can leave us feeling really deflated and hopeless. Anybody there on some aspects? Yeah. So I wanted to speak to this Kula of the heart, and for most all of you, I gather will know, but I had to also take into account that there are some people here present today and those whom I'll never meet that may not know what a Kula is. And a Kula is a community of like minds, like hearts. It's what I am referring to as the community we choose. And as we step into the deeper conversation, we can honor that karma. A lot of people know karma as good karma, bad karma, and that we have cause and effect. Right now, we're in a place where we really get to honor that everything that we're experiencing, the highs and the lows, we're inseparable as a community of humans. And that as we move into and recognize that no one person holds all the power, we really start to come into a place where this community is a collective achievement. This particular community of people is very well versed, most of you, in the concept that consciousness is the vibration of all that is. We could call that Shiva, consciousness, and the vibration, the energy of consciousness itself, Shakti. So we're a school, a kula, a community of people who really have embraced that there is a unifying source, a creator, and then we take it to a completely beautiful depth of understanding that there's not just the creator and the created and that they're separate. We live in this place called non-duality, and it's where the one becomes the many, and the creator and the created are not two, they are one and the same. And that the divine is streaming through you as you. And really the goal in this non-dual Shiva Shakti Tantra is to not just get back up to and remember the one, but to see how the one empowers all, because she is in all of us. So I want to, where most yogas have gone in the path of yoga is more of that vertical model where there's a goal to attain. We have an it to get, and once we get there, we've attained enlightenment, and somehow or another, there's this perception that, or not really, it's a perception, there's a belief that once you get there, you have achieved it. What this non-dual tantric perspective, the Shiva Shakti Tantra, offers is more of a horizontal model of where there's no longer a singular attainment. We're in a process. And I think where we as a community of the heart of Tantrikas really, we know empirically, we know in our minds, we know it on paper, and where we sometimes forget when we look out into the world because there is such craziness happening, is that it is a process, and the process is going to continue, and it will evolve, because it is the process that will forever remain unfinished. And really what we come to know is that our awakening is important, and no one person gets to hold all the light. Every single awakening matters, and we really get to start to see the one and the many. So diversity is important, and it's really hard to understand that when we're looking out there and we see really weird and sometimes atrocious things happening. So this horizontal model of yoga goes a layer deeper as we get further and further left within the Shaivite Tantra, and we start to really open to the goddess tradition. The goddess tradition of Shakta Tantra starts to really teach. They were reading all the same texts from the 5th and 6th centuries where the bhakti yoga, the devotional yoga came through, and they were saying, you know what, there is this something more. There, life is a gift. It's not a problem to be solved, even though sometimes you look out there and you just see the bad and the ugly. So really what the yoga is asking us is to step into a midline of deep importance, not out of obligation, but out of curiosity, and because it expands your heart to really look at how all of life's experiences are teachers. All the muck and all the goo and all the yuck are really what is calling us to remember that we have everything we need inside of us, that the intelligent universal is experiencing and expressing herself in you as you. And the third main teaching of the Shakta Tantra is this concept of recognition, where we must see the one shining in everyone and everyone and everyone, and use that mirror, that reflection, to see it in ourselves. So we must become empowered. I wanted to speak about karma and a lesser known concept within the world of yoga, because it really was the turning point of yoga itself, where we bring in something called Lila. Most people, like I said, relate to karma as you have good karma, you have bad karma, you have what we know as consequences. there's a couple of other components, and one of the most powerful shifts in my relationship with karma was that it's an invitation to the process of empowerment. Life is going to happen, and so to exist means we must act. We act in some way, shape, or form. Even inaction is a form of action. So a couple of other components to karma is it does show relationship. We have causality. Causality comes in the form of time and space and identity. And when we take and show the relationship of time, that's where you can start to go, well, if it's happening now, it could happen again. If it happened then, it could happen in the future. In space, we look at causality and say, if it happened here, it can happen there. If we look at the causality of identity, we go, God, if it happened to you, it could happen to me. And so we start to feel experience of relationship. And this really was true in the pandemic, wasn't it? Now, as we take on the second component, accountability is how we start to explain causality. We can use algorithms, we can use the power of predictability, we can step into and really understand the word exigency. It's one of my favorite. What do we do with that which has been put before us? And really understand that there is a rhythm and there's a predictable, if this, then that ways of, we can take action. We can literally change the course of things because we can understand that there is a relationship. Now, the third component is consequence, and the universe is unraveling. It's unraveling, and that's basically the order we can count on. And if you look at, you spill a glass of water, what's the consequence? It's going to be much harder to put the water back into the glass than it was when it was just sitting in the glass. And so consequences can be addressed, but they need us to take action. And consequences unchecked are usually the easy route. And if we're going to take action and have some change the course on how things are moving, this is the yoga. This is an invitation into something very difficult and very rare. It's the deeper conversation of yoga, where we start to realize that we can shift the terms of life. It's a source of empowerment. Now, where the complement and contrast called Lila came into the picture, this really is, we could look at Lila from like the Bhakti tradition, where Bhaktis are really about getting back to the one. Lila is the play of the one, that universal presence, God, he, she, it, is doing so because it can, and there's a grace to be dispensed, and it's basically offering what you can't give yourself. And this is where a lot of tradition, whether it's through the Bhakti Yoga, through chanting and devotional offering, or through other practices, maybe we could call them religion, where prayer comes in, where you don't feel like you have a way to take action. The universe is doing its thing as it will. And if you want to make a difference, then you better pray. And Lila's sort of that thing where you don't really feel like God's going to step in and mess with karma, mess with causality, accountability, predictability, consequences, until he does. And then we call that a miracle. Now, where Lila is viewed from the Tantric perspective, we put a whole new spin on this concept of randomness, or the play of the universal presence. And this is the title of my presentation: Lila plus karma equals the world we live in. Yes, the created and the creator are one and the same from the Tantric view. The horizon is always expanding into infinite possibilities, and miracles are now no longer something that is dispensed at will or at random, but it's literally us finding our own midline. We get to step into that place where we feel stuck, where we feel small, where we feel insecure, where we feel the challenge of life, the grit, the gur, and we find a way to expand it. And this is the quintessential teaching of Anusara yoga and of non-dual tantra. There's always the possibility for something more. When we combine karma and lila, karmic causality, we get what's called entanglement. And this is that, that feeling that you get when you meet somebody for the very first time, but you're like, I swear I've met you before. You know those moments in life? You're like, don't, I know you. I just had that happen at lunch with my server. I was certain that Alejandra and I had met somewhere, some way, and she looked at me like, no, I don't know you. So when we realize that we are all one in origin, but our differences are real. This is karmic causality plus lila. And when we step into karmic accountability plus the random flow of the universal play, we have to put things back into the big picture and realize that random things happen. Maybe somebody backed into your car, and it doesn't mean that you've accrued all this bad karma, or that if you would have had, if you would have done your meditation that day, that wouldn't have happened. Like, you can't always link this to that. Just random shit can happen sometimes. Like, for me today, it was the random offering of today was the day that my dishwasher decided to leak down into my basement. Yeah. So certainty starts to give way to probability. And the karmic consequences of Lila and Lila, we must pick up the world as it's been given to us. We must learn to shape the world from where we are and where it is. And this is probably the hardest pill for us to swallow. As I was on a hike today, I met a woman who's, she was so distraught because they're practicing fire management forestry principles up behind the hillside on my house. And she's documenting this, going, don't they understand that if they cut down this old growth tree, this happens? Don't they understand that if they cut down the maple, this happens? If they take away the aspen tree, this happens. And now that all these trees have the arsenic and the lead that they have soaked up from the mining day era, that when they burn them, it's going to have these consequences. And I was just like, the world is going mad around us, and we must shape it from where we are. And each one of us has a particular gift. She's a scientist. I walked away from that conversation going, you know what my gift is here? I'm going to take her videos and her pictures and I'm going to put it out on social media and inform my community. So we must act. We must show up and take action. That's the karma piece. And then Lila comes in and says, sometimes, you know what, you just have to get lucky. And sometimes you're not going to. Sometimes you're going to win the race, and sometimes you're going to get a flat tire. So our job as yogis in this particular community, we understand more than any group of communities out there what it means to expand the midline. And I'll just bring a little more awareness to the Karma and Lila, the midline between. Karma is where we have certainty. Lila is where anything can happen. Karma is where we have causality. Lila is where there's so much entanglement that there's no way to separate. And if I really do, I'll come back in and go, gosh, if it's happening in Germany, this pandemic, it really is happening here in Utah too. You know? Predictability starts to become more random. Order gives way to possibility. And we really learn to find and look for when we feel stuck in ourselves, in our experiences, we can hug in, remember the one, and find some more room to open up. Now, the line between Lila and Karma is where the goddess enters. And this is where we really get this from the Shakta Tantra, we really get this play where we get to expand the place where uncertainty touches certainty. And the most powerful teaching within the Shakta Tantra is we are a reflection of the divine. She has extended herself into us. And so we get to find how our boundaries can expand, and we spread the steam and open to a place of more empowerment because we know how to expand because of contraction. And just pause, close your eyes, and think right now of a moment today or this week where you felt the world coming in on you. Just go into there. Breathe with that for a second. And as yogis, we're trained to take the uncomfortable and give it a deeper breath. We're trained to exhale into the contraction and then follow that with an inhalation so that we can create the possibility for finding our source of empowerment, which is connected to the one. And in the Shakta Tantra, the one equals the three. So as Grace is falling, she's doing so in three forms. She's falling in the form of the organic and the primordial, and that's Kali. She's falling in the form of the reasonable and the intelligent, that's Saraswati. And then the convergence of Kali and Saraswati, the midline between them that expands, is Lakshmi. The beauty that comes through the recognition that the one has chosen to take form in you as you. And we're not just trying to get back to the one, because that if we stew in that place, which originally could feel quite intoxicating and really yummy to go, oh, I remember I'm connected to the one, oh, this feels so good, and oh, you know, and you make your offering and you just like start, you know, we're all one, we're all one, we're all one. But if differences are real and we keep stewing in that intoxicity, pretty soon it becomes toxic, and something is going to compel you to go, guess what? I'm going to do it this way. Thank God. So Kali and Saraswati are defining the boundaries of our yoga. Kali is in relationship, and this is where I really discovered in my own way that we don't look at Kali in the Shakta Tantra tradition. We don't look at her as a single entity who's out there to whack the heads off of all the things you need to cut off that are standing in the way. When she is in relationship with Saraswati, she is looking to the one and going, wow, if this challenge came from that singular source of love and light and empowerment, then this challenge is equal to that. Let me embrace it. So the process of empowerment, yes, Kali, Saraswati, and Lakshmi remain distinctive, powerful goddesses in their own, yet their collectivity informs their individual offering. And they make offering together, they work together. And that's what we get to do. It is no longer us just going, I am going to do this by myself. And you know what? It's me, 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 me. Like, we've come together as Kula, as community. And the different forms of the goddess are expressions of your consciousness within your experience of reality. And we get to use them. Kali is karma. She is the gift of embodiment. She is causality, accountability. She's time, she's space, she's identity. And she will take anything because she will give anything. She's that kind of devotee to the one. She will receive anything because she's ready to absorb it. And what we get to do with Kali is change our perspective on how we can better align with Saraswati, with the universal. In Kali's invitation, and this is, I will never forget that time I described when my life was unraveling and I was surrounded with like this neurotoxin from the mold called mycotoxin. And I realized that I was, and people think I'm kidding when I say this, I was literally vacuuming my walls. I had to vacuum, like, because I had to get rid of the toxins, and I was vacuuming my walls for about the 4th or 5th time. And I was like, I can do this with love, or I can do this with hate. I can do this with resentment, poor me, I'm a victim, this is happening to me, or I can look at it and go, this is happening through me, and I get to find my way out. So your inner state is how you see Kali. And the teachings of Tantra and the further left we go into the Shakta Tantra, when our ego gets out of alignment with the one is when we start to have problems. And we're not in a practice to abolish the ego, to hinder or dampen or get rid of it or rise above it. We're here to actually see how we can ascertain the strength that Kali can have to do the change that we need to do in our life to support letting go of outdated patterns and behaviors. Kali is where we get this in the Shakta Tantra. Those of you who've heard this in the Anusara world, say yes to life. Kali is the one helping you do that. Now, Saraswati, she's got this great paradox to her because her name literally holds the paradox. She is the essence of all that is, the unchanging, adamantine, unwavering, certainty, and she's the flow. So she's always changing. And that feels like my day-to-day. I found a leak in the kitchen, and then it was down in the bathroom, and then lo and behold, it was all the way in the crawl space. And then where did that come from? Did it come from, like, it was like this wild goose chase because it wasn't just related to the dishwasher, but it was all happening within my little world. So we're trying to step into and make sense of the world around us. Saraswati's invitation is reflect upon the gifts that are being given. They don't always look like gifts. They don't always come in the package you think they're going to. And so, as we step into a deeper becoming of the evolution of I, we start to realize that the preference of realizing that we have our own preference and so do others. And we are a committed Kula that is ready to look for the Lakshmi, ready to step into that gap, that midline, that seam between certainty and uncertainty, between Kali and Saraswati and really open up into our collective accomplishments. And we start to really take to heart that my enlightenment is equal to your enlightenment and vice versa. It doesn't mean that we can sit back on our laurels and go, Madhuri is going to do all the work because she knows how to make honey. That's what her name means, right? Like, she who makes honey out of all of life's experiences, right? She who knows how to take the unsavory and receive it as a gift. We're on this together and we do get to contribute to, but from our realm of accomplishment, and that is Lakshmi. So my slides did not go in the order I put them in. I am certain of that. And that is the weirdest, coolest, random Lila. I was just like, holy shit, how did we get to the end and what happened there? So there's the one I was looking for. Lakshmi is recognition of unity within diversity. She was dug out of the earth from Kali. Kali remembered Saraswati and looked up to the one to say, yes, it all came from here. And from that place, that awareness, that jewel of the heart, which is Saraswati, she said, go do what you're going to do. You must. It is why you are here. You. Never forget you came from the one. Never forget that you're in this cycle of creation, sustainment, dissolution that is going to keep things in the big picture. So as you focused earlier on a moment this today or this week that was really in contraction, take yourself now and focus on a moment this week, today, in the last little while, where you really felt some expansion. Close your eyes and go there. Yeah. When karma comes in alignment, karmic accountability comes in alignment with Lila, with the random things happen and you can't always explain them. That's remembering the bigger picture. And to open up to the big picture and really step back into connection and keep everything that we have going in the balance of the whole. This is the yoga. It's the literally the practice of becoming yourself over and over and over again, every single day. And all of this presentation, all of these teachings, yes, they came because I was in a deep, dark place. Yes, they came because I said, I've heard of this goddess named Kali and I need to get her. And it came from one of my teachers saying, you must get the other goddess. And I got the other goddess. And then I sat with that. And then I went and got them. And then the second night we all slept together, all three of us. It was a good one. And then my deeper studies into everything that I shared with you, I will honor and bow at the feet of my teacher, Douglas Brooks. And one of my favorite quotations from Douglas is, we don't live in a moral universe. If you're looking out to the universe going, that's not fair, that's not fair, that's not fair, you're right, it's not fair. It's just not fucking fair. People shouldn't be experiencing the atrocities they're experiencing. It's not fair that on the day I had a huge presentation, my whole, my house flooded. Like, it's just not fair, right? But we live in a powerful universe. And if we want to see the changes in the world, we must become empowered. And that's where this Kula, more than most, I'm not going to say we're the only ones out there doing the deeper work around this. But we get it. You guys get it. And all I did today was maybe bring in a deeper conversation of what are the three aspects of karma: causality, accountability, consequence. How does that relate to the random way the universe works and the play of the goddess, and how she's going to show up and do things really because she can and she wants to, and it's all fair game. And then tied in the Shakta Tantra and how Kali is linked to karma, and how Kali, her responsibility in the relationship of it all is to look to Saraswati and go, wow, this thing that is such a problem, this scary diagnosis, this challenge I'm having with my neighbor, this really scary thing that's happening in the Ukraine, this pandemic we've all been through, and are coming out the other side of very changed people, more aware, more in tune with what matters, and hopefully not forgetting what matters as soon as we can move on to the next bright and shiny thing. So to come in and recognize that where we feel stuck is part of the play, and it is our birthright to expand the midline and find possibilities for more. Deep breath in. Collect a sigh out.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was a lot of content in like you said, 40 minutes, and a beautiful job of expanding out on what is the concept of karma and this playfulness as well that's going on in the universe. Anybody have any thoughts or comments or questions?
We do have one question from Sharon. She said, Tiffany, please explain more about midline, physical body, and heart and mind.
Okay. If we think of your physical body, I love this as the practice of yoga. Asana teaches us anywhere, if you take your arms like this, everyone, you can do this. It's easy to do. Everywhere, now feel where your arms are touching. So where your fingers touch your arm, where your palms touch your arm, where your wrists are connected. Anywhere you have a midline, anywhere your body's parts touch, you could call that a midline. So we want to learn how to, like Kali is related to the earth, we want to learn how to embrace that. So give yourself a squeeze. And as you pull your arm bones into your shoulder sockets, you can also hug yourself from the backside. You can squeeze your shoulder blades onto your back. And it's from here, we could look at this from an outer perspective and go, God, that person's really closed off. You see this in the world, don't you? All the time. People looking at you out there like this. Like, when they feel uncomfortable or they're feeling a little less than. And we can look at that and go, gosh, you know what? If you look down, like it guides you straight into your own heart. So if we can find the midline, that place where we feel closed and stuck, and we have to look within, we get to learn to love what's there. That's my tagline. That's my literal slogan of how I look at yoga. Look within, love what's there. And we must learn to go in. And from there, we can go, you know what, I'm going to choose to grow that midline until I make a connection to the world around me. Did that answer that? She's clapping. Okay, good. I did it. Your mental being. So that was your physical body. I think the question included mental.
Heart and mind.
Your mind. So Think of the last time you let your mind go on the hamster wheel, right? And it just kept cycling and cycling and cycling and spinning and spinning and spinning. And it was probably telling you all sorts of things like, you did that wrong, your presentation's gonna suck, oh my God, somebody's gonna call you out and say, you don't know jack shit, Tiffany, who are you? Like, well, that's what was going on in my hamster wheel today. And when you realize you're having a place between an experience that is not the one you want, right? You're like, all day long, I've been like, okay, I'm like kind of a grouchy bitch because I've got water in my basement and I'm trying to make a PowerPoint presentation at the same time. And when you realize you're in that place where you're feeling more stuck than open, the hard part is we could let that mental thing go unchecked. We could let that whole thing spin out. And that's usually the easier thing. Let me go, oh, I know what's going to work. Like, I'll go have a glass of wine. Oh, I know what's going to work. I'm going to whine about it to somebody else. You know, I know what's going to work. And you find all these things. But really, truly, the difficult and rare invitation is to take a deep breath, sit down, clear the mind, and go, where is the gap between where I am and where I want to go? How far have I gained? Like, what do I know? Where am I empowered in this moment? That's expanding the midline of our mental process. What else you got for me?
What you just brought up about the gap between what I know and what I don't know is also part of what we've heard presented in our compassionate communication presentation recently, which I know you're really familiar with too, Tiffany. But yeah, that's part of our philosophy as well.
That's a really cool insight. Yeah, we've got to make a connection through empathy. And usually the gap is you can look at it and go, what am I not getting right now? And what do I have a need for that is going to take me deeper into that space where I can open up? And it comes in ways, we could use the malas as an example, right? The malas. You either are feeling a sense of separation at any level, and separation in you have forgotten your connection to the one. And so if you need to, go ahead and step into prayer. You know, it works, because why? It brings you back to that place of remembering that there is a bigger, more powerful source. Now, what we want to remember is we're not looking outside ourselves for anything. It's all right here. And if we can make our way back to a connection to the one and feel connection, then we can start to open up and solve our own predicaments and take action from an empowered place. And it doesn't always mean, you know, that the actions we take are going to work out, but you will learn and you will grow.
Thank you, Tiff. This was so beautiful. And thank you, Lisa and Maduri, for all of your support around this beautiful presentation. Thanks.
All right, everybody. I'm grateful beyond belief to be in good company. So, you know, our enlightenment is only as valuable as it is shared. So when you have a moment, I would love for you to however you want to communicate with Lisa, with me, with Madhuri, with anybody in the Anusara world of yoga, with anybody that you love at home, like your friends, it doesn't matter really. Truly, the important thing to remember, you guys, is you do have something worth sharing. And when you have a moment of enlightenment, it doesn't mean you get to spew it all over people, but you get to step in and support from a place of empowerment and share your story in a way that inspires people to be their best selves as well in the midst of their greatest challenges. And when you take a step back, as you will in the next few days, and you come up against a place where you feel stuck, may you open into the place where you can feel a little more open. So one of the ways we do that in the Anusara practice is our opening invocation, and we'll end with that. I'll sing it. You can join in with me. Nice deep breath in. Big breath out. One Om, inhale. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. May we all bow to that singular source that has chosen out of its own play to take form as in us, as us. And may that recognition guide us to the place where we get to show up in our biggest, most beautiful light. Namaste. Love y'all. Thanks for coming, my friends.